What would happen if a plane suddenly disappeared from the sky after takeoff, and 37 years later, the plane was seen landing at an airport? You may not believe this, but that's exactly what happened with Flight 914. This is not an ordinary incident. Rather, it was an incident that shocked the entire world. We are talking about Douglas Decifor Pan American Flight 914, which took off from New York to Miami on July 2nd, 1955, but never reached its destination. It was 7 in the morning at New York's LaGuardia Airport, and the crowd was slowly gathering. The passengers were busy boarding. Some were preparing to board the plane after boarding. Others were standing outside and talking. The flight had a total of 57 passengers and 4 crew members, and everything was normal. The plane was piloted by Captain C.G. Taylor, and he was sitting in his seat checking everything. It was a short and normal flight. The destination was Miami, Florida, and it was supposed to arrive there in just 3 hours. The weather was clear. There was no problem anywhere on the plane, and everything was under control. The flight took off at exactly 9:55 a.m. and within a few minutes it left behind the tall buildings of New York and reached the Atlantic Ocean. The passengers had a calm expression on their faces. Some were looking out the window, some were reading the newspaper, and some were talking about the joy of reaching Miami. But no one knew that in the next few minutes their lives were going to change forever. At 10:12 a.m., New York Air Traffic Control tracked Flight 914 and reported that the plane was on the right track. Everything was going normally, like any other day. But at 10:15 a.m., something strange happened. Because the radar screen could not see Flight 914, Flight 914 suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, the plane disappeared into the air. Seeing this, the air traffic control officials were surprised. They immediately tried to contact the plane. "Flight 914, can you hear us?" But there was no answer. They said again, "Flight 914, please answer." But again, there was no answer. Then they kept trying, but no answer was received from Flight 914. Then the New York Air Traffic Control started to panic. Air traffic control officials thought there might be a technical fault, but when they tracked the other flights, everything was normal. Only Flight 914 was missing. Miami Air Traffic Control was immediately notified and told that Flight 914 had suddenly disappeared from the radar. By now, the plane was supposed to have reached its destination, but did not. A search operation was immediately launched. The Navy began searching the sea for the plane's wreckage. Other airlines were also contacted and asked if they had seen anything unusual in the sky, but no trace was found. After much searching, when no trace was found, Pan American Airlines issued a statement that Flight 914 had mysteriously disappeared with 57 passengers and 4 crew members on board. We searched everywhere possible, but we found no wreckage. We deeply regret that this has been considered an accident. But the question now is, did the plane really crash? Or was it stranded at some other time and place? This question was now on everyone's mind, but no one had any answers. Many years passed like this, but then, almost 37 years later, in 1992, something happened that no one could believe. People had almost forgotten about Flight 914, which had disappeared in 1955. It was considered a tragic accident. The passengers were declared dead, and no one talked about the flight anymore. But 37 years later, on September 21st, 1992, something happened at the Caracas airport in Venezuela that devastated everyone there. The air traffic control at the Caracas airport was busy as usual. Every flight was being monitored and everything was normal. But a little while later, the radar screen suddenly showed a signal from an unknown aircraft. Then, the officer on duty, Joan Della Corte, looked at the screen carefully and saw that the plane was approaching Caracas. But they had no official information about it. He immediately called his colleagues and asked what plane it was. "We don't have any flight details for it." When the model number of the plane comes out after the investigation, everyone's faces are filled with both fear and panic. They see that it is not a modern plane. Rather, it is a 1950s Douglas DC-4. Air traffic control is in a frenzy. The control tower immediately contacts the plane. "Unknown plane, please identify yourself." There is no response for a few seconds. Everyone in the control tower is very worried. Just then, a broken voice comes over the radio. "This is Pan American Flight 914, which is going from New York to Miami. Have we reached Miami?" Hearing this, Juan Delarte and the other officers felt the sky fall, and in a trembling voice, they announced that it was not Miami, Caracas Airport in Venezuela. That is, Flight 914 was 2,200 kilometers away from its destination, and the pilot did not know that they had arrived at Caracas Airport after 37 years. When the pilot heard that he was at Caracas Airport instead of Miami, he panicked and asked for permission to land at Caracas Airport. Air traffic control quickly cleared the plane to land, and as soon as the pilot got permission, he landed the plane at the Caracas Airport. But the pilot was surprised by the outside view, because the other planes looked quite new and modern. At the same time, the buildings and the people around them looked quite strange. The situation of the employees at the Caracas airport was the same. Everyone looked at the old plane with surprise. It seemed as if a World War II warplane was standing in front of it. When the pilot spoke to the airport traffic control team, he learned that he had arrived in 1992. Hearing this, the pilot was shocked. He could not believe that the plane he was sitting on had taken off 37 years ago in 1955. As soon as the pilot heard this, he started the plane's engine and immediately decided to take off. The last time he was leaving, he had a file in his hand, and a piece of paper fell out of that file. And then the plane took off. Although the airport staff tried to stop the plane, the captain did not listen to anyone. The control tower officials tried to track the plane on the radar, but after a few seconds, the plane disappeared again. After that, no one knows where Flight 914 went. To this day, it has not reached Miami, and no one has been found on it. And the piece of paper that fell out of the pilot's hand was actually a calendar. It was from 1955, which proves that this incident was 100% true. But now the question is, if this really happened, then where was the plane that took off in 1955 for 37 years? This incident sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but some people believe that this incident is completely true. Others consider it a fictional story. The mystery of Flight 914 has been puzzling people for decades, and there are many stories and alleged witnesses in support of it. But to date, no concrete evidence has been found. According to some reports, this story began in the 1980s decade, when an American tabloid newspaper published it. It is said that this story is completely fabricated and there is no official record of it. Many experts claim that Flight 9IN-WANF-4 never existed, and no such incident has ever been recorded at Caracas Airport. So where did this story come from? Was this just a fabricated rumor that became more mysterious over time? Or is the real truth behind it hidden in some secret file? No one knows the truth, but one thing is certain. The mystery of Flight 914 still surprises people today, and probably will in the future. But do you think Flight 914 will return to Earth again, like it did 37 years later in 1992? Or is it just a fictional story?